Greetings, maniacs, Americans, and everyone else tuning in. How are you on this Sunday morning? For me, it's not Sunday morning. You might tell from my nip-slip suspenders that I'm wearing nearly the same clothes that I was wearing from my video Friday when the video comes out. It's not even Friday. I've scheduled it ahead of time. I have just been on Pods Squad for the second time, and it was a blast. I had a great time again, and it was more fun because obviously the more time you hang out with anyone, the more you get to know people, and the more fun it can be when you all are on the same kind of vibe. And I think we were, and we had a lot of fun. And so I look forward to going back onto that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it is the live stream that I've been doing with a collaborative of different people from Florida, Mississippi, California. And so we've all just kind of got together, talked tech, entertainment, politics. It's just been kind of fun. We've just mashed brains about different things across the spectrum, and it's been really fun. So I encourage you to tune in. It is late for Eastern time. 10:30 or 10 o'clock is when it starts Eastern time. However, it is going to be on YouTube, so you can always watch it at your leisure. So for this Sunday morning, we're going to talk about marijuana. It is something that I'm going to start with kind of a lighthearted article, and then I'm going to get into the serious business of China having illegal grow ops in Maine worth over $4 billion. Yes, $4 billion. Luckily, Senator Angus King is trying to do something about it. So this video, I hope to work with that letter. I will get it onto my site or below in the links with the links, and you'll be able to print it off and do the necessary action of doing your part. Well, actually, that one is not one for us to send in as individuals. I should try and find one so that way we can say, hey, we the people are also with this memo to the Honorable Merrick B. Garland and from Angus King, and we want you to get on this ASAP. And I've got a couple articles on the China grow ops, so we'll read from a couple different articles. To begin, though, this is from marijuanamoment.net, Science and Health, by Ben Adlin. Traffic death rates fell in the states that legalized marijuana, new study finds, while those that kept criminalization saw a slight increase. These articles are a couple weeks old because there was just so much to cover with the election, with the referendum, and then with the shooting. I am going to do a follow-up aftermath video that touches on everything that's gone on in Lewiston, but I need to do a separate video specifically for that, and that is something I'm going to work on this weekend, which is why I bulk film, because when I bulk film, I can work ahead and I can allow myself a little bit of space and breathing room. States that legalized marijuana in 2016 saw meaningful declines in traffic fatalities during the years immediately following the policy change, according to a new study by Courts Advisor. Takeaways were less clear, however, over a longer period of time that included years, the report described as anomalies nationwide. Ultimately, the paper concludes motor vehicle safety, should not be a significant concern for marijuana legalization initiatives, especially when measured against alcohol. As of yet, studies have failed to show that legalization of cannabis has resulted in any significant increase in traffic fatalities in the places where it has been legalized, it says. However, the same cannot be said for alcohol, an intoxicant that remains legal, widely available, and deeply ingrained in our culture. The findings, which are not peer-reviewed, examined traffic fatality data from 4 states that legalized adult-use cannabis in 2016: California, Maine, Massachusetts, and Nevada. Courts advisor then compared those states' vehicle death rates to the national average as well as to rates in 5 states where marijuana remained illegal during that period: Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Nebraska, and Wyoming. In the 3 years following the change, the report says none of the 4 legalized states saw an increase in traffic deaths. Most, in fact, saw declines. Three of 4, the 4 states saw a significant decrease in vehicle deaths over that span. That was an error. The paper says while the rate in Maine showed no change, Massachusetts saw the biggest drop as rates fell to 28.6% in 3 years following legalization. Combined, the 4 states that legalized marijuana saw an 11.6% drop in traffic death rates from 2016 to 2019. That's a sharper decline than the national average, which fell 10.6% over the same period. That's a far better outcome than in the 5 states that report examined where marijuana remained legal, which together experienced a 1.7% increase in their combined traffic death rate from 2016 to 2019. What might seem like a clear picture, however, gets muddier when research expand the analysis to include data from 2020 and 2021, the most recent years which National Safety Council, NSC, numbers were available. Over that period of time, the vehicle death rate in fact rose in states that legalized marijuana, although less in the U.S. as a whole. The states where cannabis was illegal, meanwhile, saw vehicle fatalities rates dip. Among the states that legalized marijuana in 2016, the vehicle death rate increased by 6% between 2016 and 2021. The report says, while this is an increase, it is slightly less of an increase than the national average, which saw a 6.2% increase in the traffic fatality rate over the same period. The vehicle death rate dropped by an average of 0.7% in the 5 states that have not legalized cannabis during this period. Why consider ignoring 2 entire years of data? The report explains. In many ways, 2020 and 2021 were anomalies, and this remains true in the vehicular accident trends. After decades of declining accident rates in the U.S., traffic fatalities picked up in 2020 and stayed high through 2021. The U.S. as a whole saw traffic fatality rates spike 18.9% from 2019 to 2021. States that legalized marijuana in 2016 saw a similar increase of 19.9%. States that have not legalized and are notably more rural than the ones that did saw the vehicular death rate fall 2.3% over that period. Because of this, we thought it was important to see what rates look like with 2020 and 2021 removed from the dataset. It continues, and it turns out they look quite different. Court's advisor called the set of observations interesting and nuanced, but ultimately limited. So the publication talked to Judy Waters, Public Information and Consumer Outreach for the Maine Bureau of Insurance, who cited a causality actuarial. This is embarrassing. Causality. Oh my gosh, I can't even. CAS. Something Society report from December 2022. Embarrassing. That examined data from the US and Canada from 2016 to 2019. The test for the decriminalization effect on fatalities failed to detect a statistically significant change. The 2022 report says about its U.S. findings. Similarly, the analysis showed no statistically significant changes in the average cost per claim, and claim frequency after marijuana legalization in Canada. The new Courts Advisor report says that while there is no evidence to suggest that legalization or decriminalizing marijuana makes roads more dangerous, that is not to say that it is safe to drive while under the influence of cannabis. It references a 2010 meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Addictions that found marijuana causes impairment in every performance area that can reasonably be connected with driving safely of a vehicle. Oddly, however, that doesn't always seem to make driving behavior commensurately more dangerous. The 2022 Causality Actuarially study found that while marijuana use does affect driving, the behavior is not always riskier. For example, slower speeds and longer following distance of impaired drivers have been reported. The American Journal of Addictions reported includes a similar caveat. Surprisingly, given the alarming results of cognitive studies, most marijuana-intoxicated drivers show only modest impairments on actual road tests, it says. Experienced smokers who drive on a set course show almost no functional impairment under the influence of marijuana. Looming over popular concerns about cannabis impairment driving is the fact that there exists no reliable test to screen for cannabis impairment specifically. Standard drug tests make it difficult or impossible to know whether someone is under the influence of marijuana or consumed it days or even weeks ago. This summer, a report in Congress for the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development and Related Agencies, THUD, bill said that House Appropriations Committee continues to support the development of an objective standard to measure marijuana impairment and a related field sobriety test to ensure highway safety. This is a fairly lengthy article, which is nice. At first I thought it was going to be short, and I was like, oh, but now it's actually offering up a lot. In February, the head of the American Trucking Association, ATA, discussed the problem with a congressional committee, arguing that lawmakers need to step up to address the conflict between state and federal cannabis policy as the industry faces shortages. Tens of thousands of commercial truckers are testing positive for marijuana as part of the federally mandated screening. Data from the Department of Transportation, DOT, show. Senator John Hickenlooper, a Democrat from Colorado, sent a letter to DOT last year seeking an update on that status of federal report into research barriers that are inhibiting the development of a standardized test for marijuana impairment on the roads. The department is required to complete the report by November under a large-scale infrastructure bill that President Joe Biden signed. Experts and advocates have emphasized that evidence isn't clear on the relationship between THC concentrations in blood and impairment. A study published in 2019, for example, concluded that those who drive at the legal THC limit, which is typically between 2 to 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood, were not statistically more likely to be involved in an accident compared to people who haven't used marijuana. Separately, the Congressional Research Service in 2019 determined that while marijuana consumption can affect a person's response times and motor performance, studies of the impact of marijuana consumption on a driver's risk of being involved in a crash have produced conflicting results, with some studies finding little or no increased risk of crash from marijuana usage. Another study from last year found that smoking CBD-rich marijuana had no significant impact on driving ability, despite the fact that all study participants exceeded the per se limit of THC in their blood. Per se, I think. And that was it. Okay, that was just the end, which is another study from last year found that smoking CBD-rich marijuana had no significant impact on driving ability, despite the fact that all study participants exceeded the per se limit for THC in their blood. I would have chosen to end it another way, but okay. It was lengthy. I like the lengthier articles because it feels like you're biting into something, like you actually have something you can fact check, like, oh, okay, there's this. I can go look into that myself. And that's really helpful. Um, I also appreciate it because it allows me to practice my orient or oratory skills. Um, just talking out loud and getting used to long-winded talking and just getting up. I would like to eventually get into some different debates. I did mock debates in high school and I loved it. Um, and so I would like to get involved in something like that. And if something gets me upset like this, I will run with this and debate out the wazoo. Let me drink some water. So I remember coming onto this several weeks ago. Even before, I'm trying to look for a date. Even before I started my YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure I remember coming across it even before then, which it was another reason where I was like, okay, this is it. There are certain things that I'm not hearing on the news, certain perspectives I'm not hearing broadcasted. I want a different angle. Let's see if there's a community of like-minded people out there. And so this is one of the primary reasons. The referendum, which just ended, but also now, well, also with all of these illegal Chinese grow ops. So that other article had nothing to do, other than marijuana, had nothing to do with what we're about to talk about. So this is from pressherald.com. It was posted on August 24th. So, like I said, it was a while ago. But I'm not hearing that much clamor about it, chatter, or anything. And that's disheartening. So I'm going to read that. And it also has a letter that's included from Senator King to Merrick Garland. And we'll read that letter as well. I'm going to include some other articles. I may not read all of them out loud. They probably deal with some of the... I would hope they deal with a lot of the same information, because a lot of the same information is going to be the same. That being said, I do want to include just different sources for information, just because it always helps me when I'm looking into things. I like to have multiple perspectives. So that's what's on the agenda. Getting back to Press Herald. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the website and it's shortened. This is from the Portland Press Herald. So Portland Press Herald, written by Eric Russell. It's under the local and state. Again, this was posted August 24th. Maine's delegation calls for feds to shut down illegal Chinese-run pot operations. A new report last week cited an internal government memo suggesting there are as many as 270 illegal Chinese marijuana growing operations in Maine that are worth more than $4 billion. Maine's congressional delegation is asking the U.S. Department of Justice to shut down illegal Chinese-run marijuana grow operations in the state, citing a report last week that there could be as many as 270 such operations in the state worth more than $4 billion. A letter signed by Maine senators and representatives to Attorney General Merrick Garland this week comes in response to a report on a conservative news website that sourced the information to a leaked memo. These reports of illegal growing operations within the state are alarming, and we are writing to request additional information about what the DOG is doing to address this situation, the delegation wrote. At this point, they have Senator King's letter. I'm going to read that after. Senator Susan King and Angus King and Representatives 𝗦𝗨𝗥𝗓𝗕𝗦𝗧 and Jared Golden posed a series of questions centered mostly around what the government knows about these operations and what it plans to do to disrupt them. Maine law allows for the adult use of marijuana, but the industry is highly regulated and taxed. There are 144 licensed legal grow sites across the state, according to the Office of Cannabis Policy, or about half of the alleged total of the illegal sites connected to the Chinese investors. Only 89 of the 144 legal grows are active. The Chinese are taking over in our own state. They have far more, and they're not paying taxes on it, and it's highly illegal. A report by the Daily Caller last week cited a leaked confidential memo that said it was distributed by U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials and detailed widespread Chinese marijuana growing operations in Maine that were not being regulated or taxed. The memo said profits from these operations are being sent back to China or used in other criminal activities. Why is our opioid epidemic happening so bad? Why is it an epidemic? Federal officials have not provided additional details about the memo or confirmed that it is authentic. It is the policy of CBP to neither confirm nor comment on potentially leaked information, an agency spokesperson wrote in response to the questions from a reporter Thursday. Matthew Felling, a spokesman for King, said Thursday that the Justice Department has not yet responded to the delegation's letter. He said Maine's members of Congress are still in the question asking phase. Shannon Moss, a spokeswoman for the Maine Drug Enforcement Agencies, would not comment on the delegation's letter or any active investigations. Say something. I can tell you that as a matter of course, when the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency uncovers, becomes aware of, or receives intelligence about illegal drug activity in Maine, it works closely with federal and local partners to determine the best course of action to disrupt and dismantle illegal drug activities in Maine and to ensure the successful prosecution of such activities, she said in an email. Similarly, Dana Hayes with the Office of Maine Attorney General said that an office continues to prosecute cases involving illegal marijuana cultivation and trafficking, specifically where the conduct cannot be addressed through the regulatory responses by the Office of Cannabis Policy. Maine would not be the only state dealing with illegal growing sites connected to China. Politico reported this year that Chinese involvement in American cannabis cultivation has been increasing, citing evidence of large numbers of cultivation operations in states such as Oklahoma, California, and Oregon. Investigators in other states have linked the operations to Chinese entities, some connected to organized crime, that are either investing in operations or supplying workers, or both. In Oklahoma, an official said that of the more than 800 cannabis farms that have been shut down for operating illegally in the past 2 years, 75% were linked to China. There also is evidence that some of the state's licensed facilities have Chinese ties, the officials told Politico. A new website in San Francisco also reported recently that Chinese groups are behind many of the illegal cannabis operations in Northern California. Maine has sometimes struggled to police illegal marijuana grow operations since the legal market launched, and there have been several high-profile investigations in recent years. None has been linked to China, at least publicly. In June, deputies with the Penobscot County Sheriff's Office seized 3,400 individual marijuana plants and 111 pounds of processed marijuana from an operation in Carmel that was not licensed or permitted. Last October, a marijuana growing operation in Ebden that was destroyed by fire was operating illegally. The fire was at least the third in central Maine in 2022 involving a marijuana growing operation. The other two were in Vassaboro, and one of them was also an illegal operation. Alex Susi, a spokeswoman for Maine's Office of Cannabis Policy, said that the office does not pursue illegal operations and has authority to regulate only activities within the state's medical and adult use cannabis programs, and among these programs, licensed operators. Unregulated and illicit cannabis operations are threats to the work that OCP does to the livelihood and financial well-being of our licensed and compliant businesses and to customers and patients in Maine who choose to use cannabis, she said. Also, I want to add that I should pull it up. I saw it a while ago. I didn't see it just now when I was searching through my old articles. That there's also been strains of bacteria found in these illegal Chinese operations. So not only are they illegal, they're untaxed, they're filled with bacteria. Like, there's nothing good coming from it for the American people, for the Mainers, for Maine. And that it's happening across the nation. 𝗤𝗏𝗪𝗏, honorable sir, you need to get on it. Get on it. Now. This is bad. This is bad. Okay, so I just tried looking up the contaminated weed here in Maine, and I couldn't find the article that I found before, which always makes me sus. I don't know if you've ever done that yourself. Seen an article you saw years ago and then go back and try and locate it now. Even if you remember specific references, it can be really hard to find. So I find that downloading specific things that I know I need and screenshotting other things is helpful. So that might be a hack for you guys to get into. I do want to follow up after that with the letter that Senator King had drafted that the others also signed to Merrick Garland. So I'll include this down below and you can see it for yourself. Congress of the United States, Washington, D.C., 20515, August 23rd, 2023. The Honorable Merrick B. Garland, Attorney General, U.S. Department of Justice, 950 Pennsylvania Ave, Northwest, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., 2053-0. Dear Attorney General Garland, we write to express our concern about recent reports of a memo produced and circulated by Border Patrol officials regarding alleged illegal Chinese marijuana growing operations in the state of Maine. According to the memo, law enforcement in the state have identified 270 suspected properties that have been used as illegal Chinese grow operations, producing an estimated $4.37 billion in revenue. These illegal growing operations are detrimental to Maine businesses that comply with state laws, and we urge the Department of Justice to shut them down. Maine state law permits marijuana use in certain circumstances, and the Maine Office of Cannabis Policy, OCP, provides oversight. OCP is responsible for licensing, compliance, and general oversight of both medical marijuana use and recreational use, and it consults with other state agencies, including the Department of Agricultural Conservation and Forestry, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Labor, and the Department of Public Safety, on rulemaking related to the areas of expertise. These reports of illegal growing operations within the state are alarming, and we are writing to request additional information about what the DOG is doing to address the situation. We request answers to the following questions. What is the DOG doing to address illegal growing operations, including illegal growing operations that are run by foreign governments or entities? 2. How are the profits from these illegal operations being returned to the country of origin and state of origin? This is our water, our electricity. Taxpayers are paying for them, so we get that back, not the country, Maine. These reports identify Chinese ownership. Is the DOG aware of this alleged Chinese ownership or any other foreign involvement in these operations? 4. Please provide any additional information about the memo identified in these reports, including who produced it, when the information contained in the memo was first obtained, and what actions have been taken in response. 5. What action is the DOG taking to swiftly shut down any illegal marijuana growing operations in the state of Maine? Thank you for your attention to this important matter. Sincerely, Angus S. King Jr., Susan M. Collins, both United States Senators, and then Jared Golden and 𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗟 members of Congress. That's straight to the point, and I don't know that there was a response. I haven't seen that there was a response, but I am going to need a pen to write all of these things down. I always have pens. This is distressing. So, moving on to that, I have an article from the Maine Wire. Oh, this one's good. Oh, and it's showing operations, like the houses and places. Like, they're not these giant warehouses. I mean, I guess some of them kind of are, but this is bad. Like, this is a long article. Wow, okay. This is investigative journalism. Like, this is what it was supposed to be. At first, I thought I was looking at like Zillow listings because it was showing properties, but it was showing. Wow. Okay. Save 2 minutes by listening to this text instead of reading it. 2 minutes. It's a 19-minute read. Whew. Okay. That is a good one. Let me put brakes on that for right this second. Not that I'm not into doing that. I mean, well, to be honest, the rest are going to pale in comparison to that one. I'll include the other ones that I was going to read, and I suppose I should just read the one that gives the most info. It'll be good for my vocal cords to stretch them out and get them going. Yeah, I'll include the other links that I was going to read. One of them's just from Angus King's, from his Senate site. It includes the letter and then just a little bit more information. So I'll include it, but that doesn't offer up anything. The other article that I was going to read is also from Maine Wire. So I figure I'll just read the one from Maine Wire. I'll include links for both, but this way we get the most shebang for our buck. Okay. I'm going to pause for a minute so I can take a breather for just a second, but you won't even know because it's like I never even left. I'm glad that I took a minute to check Maine Wire out because I clicked on a recent article. It came out just yesterday. Actually, I'm posting this on Sunday. So anyway, it came out the 9th. Also from Maine Wire. I haven't really dabbled that much in Maine Wire, but I like it a lot. So I'm going to try to bring more information from here because you hear BDM, Bangor Daily News, BDN, all the time. And I mean, I like an underdog. I don't hear about Maine Wire as much. So again, this came out November 9th. It's by Steve Robinson. Maine legislature will consider proposal to fight Chinese-owned marijuana operations. Will consider. The Maine legislature will consider a bill next year that aims to address the proliferation of illegal Chinese-owned marijuana growing operations across rural Maine. The Legislative Council, which is comprised to top-ranking state lawmakers, voted by a slim margin to allow a bill from Representative John Andrews, a Republican from Paris, to be considered when the legislature reconvenes in January. Representative Andrews' bill, an act to combat racketeering by foreign organizations in Maine cannabis markets, is intended to provide local, county, and state law enforcement agencies with the authority and tools to combat what the Department of Homeland Security refers to as an Asian transnational criminal organization, 𝗡𝗟𝗧. I'm grateful that the Legislative Council took this clear and present danger to Maine seriously by letting my bill in for the second session, Andrews told the Maine Wire. I want the bill to cut through bureaucratic red tape and empower state, county, and local law enforcement and prosecutors to work together to combat this ongoing criminal enterprise, Andrews said. Senator 𝗦𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗦𝗧, a Democrat from 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗢𝗢, oh man, I've never even heard. Okay, I'm butchering that. I apologize, Mainers. Representative Maureen Terry, a Democrat from Gorham, and Representative Kristen Cloutier, a Democrat from Lewiston, were the only Legislative Council members who voted against the proposal. Two other bills related to marijuana cultivation by 𝗡𝗟𝗧, one from Representative Mike 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗢𝗧, a representative of Phillips, and another from Representative Billy Bob Fockingham, a Republican from Winter Harbor, did not make it through Thursday's meeting of the council. Fockingham bills died after getting no votes from Vitaly, Terry, Cloutier, and Senator Matty Daughtry, a Democrat from Cumberland, and House Speaker Rachel Talbot Ross, a Democrat from Republican. Every Democrat on the council, including Senator President Troy Jackson, a Democrat from Aroostook, voted against Sobolewski's bill. I'm extremely disappointed that the Democrat-controlled Legislative Council didn't take up my bill that would tackle the illegal Chinese marijuana operations happening right now in rural Maine, said Sobolewski. This is a serious issue and we need action. The vote on Andrews' bill came just one day after the Maine Wire published an investigative report detailing the sprawling network of Chinese-owned marijuana growing operations throughout rural Maine. 8 weeks ago, Maine's congressional delegation called on the U.S. Department of Justice and Attorney General Merrick Garland to crack down on illicit operations. However, no one from the DOJ or the AG's office has even responded. Yo, we are on our own as Mainers, as Americans. When shit hits the fan, there ain't no one coming. So you best be ready yourself. Food prep, weapon prep, self-sustaining prep. Make sure you have water or tablets for water or filters for water. Like, stock up if you have medication that you know you need to take, because, yo, it's getting rough out there. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon. I'm going to keep reporting on this, but, like, this is not good. But I haven't seen anyone else talking about this. I mean, I'm not going to throw different agencies under the bus. I haven't seen them talking about it. Obviously, they're putting out articles, so people are reading about it. I don't watch the news consistently, but I guess in my circles, which I'm pretty active and up to date with what's going on in the news, I don't hear about this too often. And so I'm wondering how many other Mainers are in that shoes where they just don't know. And once we know of an issue, we crack down on it. So I'm trying to shed light on this to crack down, because not good. This is just not good. And the more I look around Maine, we're focusing on the wrong things. We're helping the wrong people. We're not doing justice by anyone. I mean, there are some people that are benefiting, but unfortunately, it's not hardworking Mainers right now. And Governor Janet Mills, I do expect better. So, this is from the Maine Wire. This is also written by Steve Robinson. It's a 19-minute read, so I'm going to be going for a minute. I might have to take a break halfway. This is Triad Weed, How Chinese Marijuana Grows Took Over Rural Maine, November 8th. I'm definitely including this one because there's graphics, and it's just making it so much more to light because you see these buildings that they are operating out of, and you're like, wait, that looks like one down the road. And then you're like, is that one they haven't discovered? Oh, okay. No one's coming to help us. We need to do something about this ourselves. Investigative journalism is a good way to do that. Obviously, not violence. I'm talking about drawing it to the light and letting justice do its job and getting the people that are preventing it out of the way. So let's get into this. I don't know why I keep doing this tonight, like patty cakes. I haven't done that. I don't know if I ever did that. Okay, maybe with my younger sister and my nieces. My nieces definitely made me. I'd do anything for them. Illegal Chinese marijuana grows have taken over much of rural Maine. The government is either incapable or unwilling to do anything about it. The Maine Wire has identified more than 100 properties that are part of a sprawling network of Chinese-owned sites operating as unlicensed illicit cannabis growing operations in rural Maine. According to an unclassified memo from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security obtained by the Maine Wire, the illicit grows are operated by Asian Transnational Criminal Organizations, ATCOs. The properties cover Somerset County, Penobscot County, Kennebec County, Franklin County, Androscoggin County, and Oxford County. The sites were purchased over the past 3 years by single adults, primarily from New York and Massachusetts, using cash or financing arranged through a handful of mortgage companies. The Maine Wire investigation began following the leak of a separate DHS memo that revealed the existence of more than 270 such sites in Maine. That memo, first reported by Janine Tier of the Daily Caller News Foundation, offered the first public confirmation of what law enforcement officials have long known, but what neighbors to these properties and legal marijuana entrepreneurs have only suspected. Namely, that Chinese foreign nationals are exploiting Maine's lax marijuana laws, the Biden administration immigration policies, and cheap real estate in Maine, rural Maine, to grow a fortune using exploited illegal alien labor. There's an image, but let me see if this makes it bigger. No, it's not. Okay. Nationwide, there are approximately 749 properties that DHS has linked to Asian TCOs. The leaked memo included a spreadsheet which has not been made public that identified 270 properties within Maine that are actively used by the Chinese in relation to their operations. I'm too close. My face is greasy and shiny. I've been working all day, yo. Don't judge me. Local, state, county, and federal officials, speaking mostly of the condition of anonymity, have confirmed to the Maine Wire that various law enforcement agencies have known about this foreign network of illicit drug manufacturing and distribution for more than 2 years. What? Various law enforcement agencies have known about this foreign network of illicit drug manufacturing and distribution for more than 2 years. Janet Mills. That's something worth looking into, isn't it? Because what someone knows and what someone doesn't respond to when they know about something can be a big deal when you're a public servant. On September 15th, DHS sent the following memo to Maine law enforcement asking for help gathering intel on the properties. We are requesting a response by state, county, and/or local law enforcement officials with any information regarding illegal marijuana grows operated in their areas by suspected Asian Transnational Criminal Organizations, TCO. This collection effort is supporting a national intelligence gathering initiative to identify a comprehensive picture of the threat posed to national security by Asian TCOs operating illegally in the United States. A typical response may include confirmation that this activity is occurring, the number of suspected grows in your area of responsibility, reports by concerned citizens or local officials relating to illegal grow operations by Asian TCOs, or any other information respondents may deem of value. There are hundreds of these operations occurring throughout the state. It's upsetting to those that live near these operations and even those who are following Maine laws and procedures, Penobscot County Sheriff Troy Morton told the DCNF. Maine's congressional delegation has called upon the Department of Justice to shutter the operation, but Attorney General Merrick Garland has yet to respond in writing. This came a day before the one that I just read, but I wanted to update everyone on the newest. I guess I could have waited because it was a single day, but now you know. Most of the properties were acquired after Maine legalized the sale of recreational pot in 2020. According to the DHS memos, the sites are operated by Chinese, foreign nationals, some who are in the U.S. illegally. DHS believes the network earns an estimated total income of $4.37 billion per year, some of which is returned to entities in the People's Republic of China. The locations of the sites and names of their owners have not been publicly released, but they include a nifty little map where you can see it's all up and down central, south central, and north central Maine. And then it has a bunch of pictures of properties, fairly normal looking homes. Some of them are shuttered. Some of them you can tell that, I mean, it's hard to tell here in Maine because Maine living is hard, and sometimes winters are destructive, and it's hard to get back to taking care of your house like it should be. These houses don't even necessarily, one of them looks condemned, but the rest look fairly upkept. I mean, some of them look even like they're all over the spectrum. That one looks decent. I mean, the garage is wonky, but the house itself, it's where you would expect like a quaint little family. That one, that looks like a brand new house. I feel like I just watched that one go up. I might even know that house. Next time I drive by, I'm going to check it out. Oh, that would be so disheartening. They have a farm out front, so it would make sense that it's like, that's why there's vehicles in and out and doing these things. Ugh, this is bad. How many times have I said that? This is bad. Something needs to be done. Marijuana grown at these sites is notorious in Maine's legal cannabis industry as triad weed. When I say they function like a mafia, it's absolutely true. One longtime veteran of Maine's medical and recreational pot industry told the Maine Wire. They have a very intricate network. Scrupulous dispensaries avoid purchasing or selling marijuana from the illicit grows because it has a reputation for containing pesticides, fungicides, and other banned or harmful contaminants. Okay, so this references what I was talking about earlier. I couldn't find the article, but there are pesticides, fungicides, and other banned or harmful contaminants in the marijuana that's coming out of these Chinese grow operations. So not only are they illegal, they're also detrimental to health, especially to medical using patients. But legal growers all agree that at least some triad weed is entering Maine markets. I would say most of their product ends up skipping across the border, the industry veteran said. But the shit that stays in Maine is what is helping to contribute to the collapse of flower prices. The operators of these foreign-owned sites are also notorious around grow supply shops in Maine, where they are often found buying thousands of dollars in cultivation supplies. Speaking little to no English, the operators acquire supplies by pointing at images on their phones or by having someone out of state translate over the phone. That's like a dead giveaway. So now that you know to look out for that, like it can happen in other states, but that's not a regular occurrence here in Maine. According to DHS, the Asian TCOs use the procedure of the marijuana grows to fund other illegal activities, including narcotics trafficking and human trafficking. It just keeps getting worse. The DCNF reported, based on Maine and federal sources, that many of the participants in the operations are either in the U.S. illegally or have applied for asylum status or permanent residency. Morton, the sheriff of Penobscot County, told DCNF most individuals under investigation for being involved in illegal marijuana grows aren't U.S. citizens. I mean, that's nice that Mainers aren't selling out other Mainers for themselves, but still, like, it seems like there's a way to stop this if we really wanted to. Regardless of where the individuals are from, the true problem involves conflicting state and federal laws. We also have little to no oversight allowing for criminal activity to occur at a high degree, Morton said. Morton declined to elaborate on these comments, instead referring the Maine Wire to U.S. Attorney of Maine. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney of Maine declined to comment for the story. Seriously? You don't get to do that. You have to say something. A spokesperson for the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, the agency that published the original leaked memo, declined to comment on the memo. The U.S. Border Patrol coordinates closely with our interagency partners when conducting investigations and when taking enforcement actions, the spokesperson said. It would not be appropriate for the USBP to comment on behalf of other agencies. Furthermore, Border Patrol does not publicly disclose sources of information, investigative methods, or other information that may jeopardize the safety of witnesses or otherwise compromise any investigation, said the spokesperson. The Maine Wire offered to provide the U.S. Attorney of Maine and the Maine State Police with a list of illicit foreign-owned marijuana grows in Maine prior to the publication of the story, but both declined. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, which has been investigating illegal Chinese marijuana grows in Maine for at least 2 years, declined to comment for this story. It is sounding like the Maine Wire is doing the Lord's work. Like, Maine Wire, keep this up, because I can't see what you're doing wrong. It's a large article. Finding Maine's illegal grow sites and their owners. A review of federal estate records, physical site inspections, and interviews with hundreds of Mainers has identified more than 100 Chinese-owned properties in Maine, all purchased by single men and women from out of state, primarily Brooklyn and Staten Island, over the past 3 years. The buyers often pay cash, but dozens of the properties carry mortgages for just a few finance companies. The sites are almost all in rural Maine and show evidence of active or recently active marijuana grow operations, including grow supplies and the obvious smell of marijuana even at a considerable distance. Almost all of the sites have had extensive modifications to houses, garages, and outbuildings to support marijuana growing, including the installation of 300 or 400 amp commercial-grade electricity service, consumer-owned utility poles, and multiple heat pumps. Neighbors confirm that the houses frequently smell of marijuana, and several times a year a white van with New York or Massachusetts plates will arrive and depart. Neighbors also report, in some cases, seeing tractor-trailer trucks delivering grow supplies. The properties the Maine Wire has identified account for thousands of acres of land in rural Maine and tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate. Marijuana industry experts said a standard 2,500 square foot house in Maine could, if properly renovated into a marijuana grow, generate $1 million to $3 million in marijuana per year. Although most of the properties are owned under the names of Chinese men and women from New York or Massachusetts, some of them are owned through LLCs. The Maine Wire was not able to independently confirm the immigration or citizenship status of the owners of these properties. However, nothing in U.S. or Maine law would prevent a Chinese national from purchasing a property in Maine, even if they were in the country illegally? What? Whoa. This just keeps getting worse. I mean, they're also affecting the housing prices. And then there's nothing stopping someone that's illegal? I mean, come on, that can't be true. The Maine Wire also discovered records tying multiple sites together, including car registrations, municipal waste permits, real estate records, and other public records, which, taken together, support the determination that the grow sites are connected and centrally controlled under an umbrella organization. At a grow site in Fairfield, for example, there was a Toyota Corolla registered to the owner of a separate site in Garland. That same vehicle was later observed at the site in Garland. At a different Fairfield site, there was a truck with mass plates that had a dump permit sticker for Dexter, 40 miles east, and a dump sticker for Wilton, 40 miles west. That's at least an 80 miles difference. Law enforcement resources confirmed that they are aware of the existence of multiple sites in both Dexter and Wilton. They're aware! Why aren't they doing anything? Several of the properties that show obvious signs of active or recent active marijuana growing operations have been purchased by Chinese individuals from New York or Massachusetts, only to be resold shortly after to other Chinese individuals from New York or Brooklyn. New York or New York. Indoor Marijuana Cultivation 101. Before we get to the sites the Maine Wire identified, it will be helpful to go over some basics of growing marijuana indoors. The chief necessity is abundant electricity. That electricity is used to power the grow lights, which consume substantial more energy than your average LED lighting. But because those lights also generate a tremendous amount of heat, the grow rooms require cooling and ventilation equipment. The ideal temperature for growing marijuana is 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Without significant air conditioning, the lighting would make a grow room too hot. The primary way the sites in Maine cool their grow rooms and control humidity is through heat pumps. The combined electricity consumption of the lighting and the heat pumps require robust upgrades to electrical infrastructure at a typical residential property. Most of the sites identified by the Maine Wire show evidence of recent electrical upgrades and the addition of multiple heat pumps. Linesmen from Central Maine Power and local electricians both shared, on the condition of anonymity, stories about being asked to upgrade residential buildings with the power capacity typically only needed by energy-intensive businesses. Usually it's like a 10 kVA transformer that they overload out of a regular house. You won't even be able to tell, said a CMP linesman. And so we gotta go upgrade, and usually one person will come out and stare at us the whole time. They usually don't know any English. One electrician in Central Maine was asked to install commercial-grade service to a mobile home, a job he refused because he found the customers, who did not speak English, too sketchy. I will say it's very infrequent that you find people here in Maine that do not speak English. I understand in other cities and other states it happens. That's not something that really happens here in Maine. I mean, we have French-speaking people, but they still speak English, typically. And any of the Spanish-speaking people that come up here, they also speak English. So what's going to be unfortunate is these illegal Chinese people are making it so much more difficult and hazardous for the legal Chinese people here, who didn't ask for any of this to be lumped on them. I met with them one time a couple years back, but didn't like what I was seeing, the electrician said. The two most common electrical upgrades encountered at these sites are new 300 or 400 amp breaker boxes and consumer-owned utility poles. Without such upgrades, running a grow operation on common residential wiring risks starting a fire, as has happened in sites in Canaan, Winterport, and Vassarboro. In addition to electricity, the indoor grow rooms need to seal out ambient light, which is why all of the windows are boarded up at these locations. Ambient light during a dark cycle can cause young marijuana plants to turn into hermaphrodites, which decreases the potency of the flower. Marijuana plants matter with male and female. Female is the parts that we want, the berries or the buds. Here are some more in-depth looks at sites the Maine Wire has identified based on real estate records, photographs provided by sources, public records, and interviews with law enforcement and residents of the towns. And it actually includes the address. 629 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗏 Road, Fairfield. And all the windows are sealed tight. The lawn's unkept. The house looks decent, but it doesn't look like anyone lives there. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, was purchased by 32-year-old 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗬𝗓 on July 30th, 2021, according to Somerset Registry of Deeds records. The windows are obscured, but not with curtains or blinds, but with type of foil foam board used to keep out ambient light. On the back of the house, there are 3 active heat pumps, 2 on the main house and 1 on the semi-detached garage. The home also boasts an electrical entrance that far exceeds the standard residential electrical equipment. Plenty more photos are included. In 2021, prior to Lynn's purchase, the home did not have any heat pumps or commercial-grade electricity. A master electrician licensed to work in Maine said the electrical equipment on the side of the home appeared to be a 400-amp service with 200-amp manual disconnects, an expensive arrangement that is rare to install on a residential property. In layman's terms, the house is consuming far more energy than your average Maine's home. It also reeks of pot, according to neighbors. Inside the home, photos show clear evidence of a marijuana growing operation. Note, these were provided by a source who asked to remain anonymous. Legal Maine cultivators consulted by the Maine Wire assessed that this is what a standard grow operation looks like, noting the chemical containers, the newly installed benching on either side of the room, and the wiring. This picture shows the same room prior in 2021. Oh man, it's botched. It doesn't even look the same. It's a different angle, but it doesn't look the same. At the time the more recent photos were taken, there were 2 vehicles on the property, a charcoal gray truck with Massachusetts license plate and a large white cargo van, also with Mass plates. According to the public record, the only other address associated with Lynn is in Quincy, Mass., where he appears to live with several family members. Though Lynn owns the property, there is no evidence that he himself participated in the cultivation or trafficking of marijuana. There's some documents, although I can't click on them to make them closer. I don't know what the point of including them is. It's a mortgage and signatures. The Maine Wire has identified more than 100 similar sites in Maine that all fit elements of the same pattern. 1. Purchased in the past 3 years by a single Chinese man or woman from New York or Massachusetts. 2. Strong odor of marijuana even from a distance of hundreds of feet. 3. Rubbish from commercial grow products. 4. Massive upgrades to the electrical capacity of the property. 5. Property has large garage, outbuilding, or barn. 6. All windows are completely blacked out. 7. Multiple security cameras. And 8. Multiple heat pumps running constantly. 4 Smith Road and 43 Cape Cod Hill Road, New Sharon. In New Sharon, a population of only 1,500, the Maine Wire identified 2 obvious marijuana grows purchased within the last 3 years. A property at 4 Smith Road was purchased in July 2021 by 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 electrical upgrades, and most tellingly, an overpowering odor of marijuana that could be easily detected from hundreds of feet away. Similarly, this massive property at 43 Cape Cod Hill Road was purchased in June 2021 by 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗪𝗓, 38 of Staten Island, New York. During a visit in October, windows visible from the public road and neighbors' driveway appeared completely boarded up, and odor of marijuana was powerful. though that could have been because the site is about 200 yards from 5 Smith Road. And this is a nice, classic-looking home. Ugh. Although Chen and Zhao's name appear on the deeds of these property, there is no evidence that they have themselves cultivated or trafficked illicit marijuana. They're showing some before and after pictures, and I'm not sure why they chose the angle that they did, because it's like before, after, and it doesn't actually look any different, to be honest. Steve Robinson's been busy writing, but he clearly cares because he's putting care into this. Madison Golf Course Road and Lakewood Road. Madison is host to at least 3 active indoor marijuana growing operations. The operations are at 383 Lakewood Road, 288 Golf Course Road, and 2821 Golf Course Road. When the Maine Wire visited these 3 properties attempting to interview the occupants, we observed the telltale signs of marijuana grows: blacked out windows, electrical upgrades, multiple heat pumps, and the obvious odor of marijuana. The 21 Golf Course Road is owned by Changju Wu and was previously owned by 𝗏𝗏𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 golf course road was owned by 𝗦𝗎𝗪𝗓, 30. Wu, who previously lived in Brooklyn, purchased the property in October 2020 and sold it this September to Jamie Yajing Chen, also previously from Brooklyn. Wu was also the owner of a house in Ebden. Although Wu obtained financing for the Ebden location, the two Madison properties were purchased in cash. Like the Fairfield location, the properties at 383 Lakewood Road has undergone significant renovations since it was purchased. Photos available on Zillow from before Wu acquired the property show it had no heat pumps installed in the front of the building. Now it has two. While attempting to contact Wu at the house for an interview, the Maine Wire observed 3 heat pumps. Oh, yeah, I missed one. On the front of the building and 1 on the back. Comparing the before and after pictures also shows the garage has had new power service installed within the past 3 years. When the Maine Wire visited, every window was blacked out with sheetrock and blankets, and the smell of marijuana was apparent. A roughly 5-minute drive from the Lakewood Road properties brings you to Golf Course Road. At 288 Golf Course Road, the house smelled strongly of marijuana when the Maine Wire attempted to contact the owner. A vent on the side of the garage was pumping hot air that smelled strongly of marijuana. Although a woman came out of the house to talk, conducting an interview was impossible because she only spoke Mandarin. The occupant, a middle-aged Chinese woman, called an unidentified person who attempted to translate and conveyed that they were uninterested in talking. The windows on the house and garage were all boarded up with either foam insulation or sheetrock, and the home had commercial-grade electrical service. The home also had multiple security cameras. Like with other properties, before and after pictures show significant changes to the electrical equipment on the house following its purchase. On the same road is another site that a neighbor described as a Chinese-owned marijuana growing operation. The neighbor, who asked not to be named because he wants to live, said it was common knowledge on the road that the house was being used to grow marijuana. The aroma left little reason to doubt his opinion. Comparing older photos of the property to how it appears now shows significant modifications to the 5-car garage, including windows covers to exclude ambient light. I'm really thankful. Steve Robinson, I want to make sure that's your name. Steve Robinson, well done. Keep this reporting up. Oh, and he's the editor-in-chief. Maybe I'll reach out. 𝗏69 Barker Road, Winterport. Fires are not uncommon at these sites. This house in Winterport was purchased in August 2021 by Wanzhen Huang, 50, of Brooklyn, New York. The purchase price was $182,000, and Zillow currently estimates it at $348,900. But Zillow might not know about the unrepaired fire damage. This is how the home looks now. Oh, yikes. Oh, and a neighbor took a picture after the fire, and there's 4 Chinese guys. At least 2 of them look pretty serious. When the Maine Wire visited the home seeking an interview with the occupants, it appeared abandoned. Yeah, I bet they would GTFO at that point. 346 Ohio Hill Road, Route 23 in Fairfield. It's like the same areas get hit over and over again. This dilapidated Ohio Hill Road house was purchased by Yinfeng Yu, 38, of El Monte, California, in February of 2020. Images provided to the Maine Wire by a source who asked to remain anonymous show marijuana growing equipment littering the property, including plant pots, fertilizer containers, and soil supplements. 195 West Road, Chesterville. In Chesterville, the Maine Wire observed the strong odor of marijuana at this property. A source who asked to remain anonymous said the CBP has visited this property and even used a hidden camera to photograph it over a period of months. A CBP agent declined to comment when asked about this property. Naturally. Harming legal growers. Legal marijuana cultivators told the Maine Wire that licensed operators have long believed that at least some weed grown illegally at sites controlled by Chinese organized crime is making it into Maine's legal marijuana market. The influx of cheap Chinese weed, which cannabis aficionados have dubbed triad weed, is, they believe, depressing prices. Marijuana prices went from $2,800 during COVID and right before COVID, said one medical grower. Now, for a good pound of flower, it's like $12.50. So your profit on that after your CMP bill, your profit, that's like, $600. All these little guys and all these caregivers that are doing the right thing are getting shut out and shutting down. That's awful. The plummeting price for legal cannabis in Maine coincides with when Chinese buyers began scooping up rural Maine properties and converting them into grow operations. How much money are these sites making? First off, how much marijuana could each site produce? According to industry experts the Maine Wire consulted, the amount of marijuana produced at a given spot would depend on the skill of the growers, the resources at the disposal, and how much of the home and garage has been dedicated to grow rooms. Assuming maximum efficiency, a 2,500 square foot house could accommodate 50 grow lights, which would produce 100 pounds of processed marijuana per harvest. Such an operation could expect 4 to 12 harvests per year, or 400 to 1,200 pounds of marijuana flowers. How much is that in US dollars? That depends on where the flower is ultimately sold. If the flower is sold in Maine's barely regulated medicinal market, it's most certainly being sold for less than $800 a pound. However, if the flower is being trafficked back to New York City, the black market price is closer to $3,000 per pound. Although there are a considerable range of factors, multiple individuals told the Maine Wire that it was realistic to conclude that an operation of this type could fetch $1.2 million to $3.6 million, not including the considerable cost of electricity, fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, and, in some cases, mortgage payments. This will be the first in a series of stories from the Maine Wire concerning Chinese organized crime in Maine. Future articles in this series will focus on the financial arrangements that have allowed Chinese buyers to purchase so much real estate in Maine, the political response to this problem from Augusta, how the Office of Cannabis Policy understands the problem, and what steps law enforcement is taking. 𝗦𝗬𝗪𝗏 and Graham Pollard contributed to this report. Once again, Steve Robinson. Written on the 8th of November this year, 2023. Triad Weed, How Chinese Marijuana Grows Took Over Rural Maine. That was exceptionally well written, and I enjoyed it. Not in so much as I liked learning about what was happening. That was awful. But I'm glad to know it, and I'm glad to be contributing towards others learning about this because this is devastating. This is devastating weed market with small businesses. It's devastating the housing market where people are getting shut out of houses because they can't afford it. Um, it's getting detrimental to neighbors with children, with any concern for their own safety, because with the security cameras, they're securing this place for a reason. Um, I am getting close to running out of space, and so that's a good point to end. I have been going for an hour and 15 minutes. It's bad for a lot of reasons, but as Steve Robinson concluded in the article, that he's going to keep reporting on it, and so will I. I will reach out to him just to see um, like minds and see where that goes. I mean, he is a chief editor, so he's busy, but we'll connect and maybe and see. I hope that I have earned your subscription at this point. If you already are subscribed, please go ahead and like and comment the video. Those things really help. Engagement is great, especially for a fledgling, growing channel like myself. I have around 270 people as of the recording of this video on Thursday night, Friday morning at 4 a.m., but it's being released Sunday. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to more videos with you in the future.